I've managed to just quickly jump online and I've grabbed a couple of stock images here of some chins. Now these are obviously not matching the chin that we're after, but I am trying to make him look younger, so I'm trying to remove some of that facial hair there. What I typically do try and look at is making sure that the face is facing the right direction and that the lighting is fairly similar. Matching the colors, as long as if it's reasonably close, we can always adjust that later, but we can do some feature adjustments. So I'm actually going to drag that image and I'm going to drop it in. There it is there. And again, hold down shift as you scale. You don't want to start warping it too much straight away. And I'm just going to move that about. And I'm actually looking at the one on the left to use. And I'm going to hit enter once that's done. I'm going to delete this one on the right. So I'm going to use the rectangular selection tool and I'm just going to select what I don't want and just hit delete. And it's saying it's a smart object, not directly editable, so right click rasterize and I can delete it. Control D to deselect. I'm going to get rid of those messy bits. And there is my mouth, or at least just the chin that I want to replace. Now I still want this looking like the original character, so I'm going to again transform a little bit, place it over, let's zoom in. And now I'm going to jump into my layers panel and I'm going to drop the opacity down a little bit. So here's the opacity for the mouth part. And I want to start be able to see, where I'm looking at the chin mainly and see if I can get this to blend in. Now I'm not too concerned about the ears. I'm only slightly concerned with the mouth because that's kind of a good marker. I might scale up a little bit, drop down. So I've got this in transform, Control T, scale, move down. You can use the arrow keys to move down if you want to go incrementally as well. If it needs flipping, you can right click when you're transforming and go to flip horizontally or hit flip vertically. But I think this is actually a decent, close enough for this. Alright, I'm going to place that in there. Let's bring the opacity back. Okay. So it's definitely not quite Mark Ruffalo's face feature, but let's see what we can do about that. I'm going to place a mask on this image. I'm just going to literally go click for mask down there. And let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. Now this one's pretty good. It's just got a bit of blue, so it should be easy to get a bit of a shirt, which I'm not kidding. I'm only really concerned with the neck here, so let's just double click on that mask. Again, check your view mode. There's onion skin. Great. And let's go to our quick selection. Again, holding down Alt to subtract. And I'm just trying to get rid of some of the blue area. Great. Oop. Keep it. Just keep that finger on Alt to subtract. Shirt I don't need. And that's pretty good. That will do for now. I'm going to hit OK. Great. And what we're going to go now is, with this mask selected, I'm going to keep eating this away. So to do this, I'm actually going to just quickly jump onto the Wacom tab. I'm going to go B for brush, brush tool, right click, just make sure I've got a nice soft brush for this. Now opacity is going to play a big role in this. We could start off with a high opacity to start, and make sure you're on black to subtract or white to take away. Remember, X is going to allow us to flip between the two there. And I'm going to start brushing that mask away. Now I'm going to start off with 100%. That's fine. And I want to see if I can get ultimately Mark's features back in. Now, of course, before I do all this, I would have tried to I really would have liked to clean up more of the blemishes and stuff like that, but that's something that you'll have to do on your own. Let's start clearing up the neck a bit, and that's kind of getting there. So do turn the visibility on and off as required. Now I want to get kind of a sharp edge to this neck. It's kind of blurry if I turn Mark's image off here. So in order to do this, there's a couple of ways we can do this. we can try and use the polygonal lasso tool. Again, if you do it in small enough increments, you can pretty closely click through and select an area. I'm actually going to use the pen tool. Shortcut is P, and this is actually going to allow me to click and then click and drag. It is one of those tools that is extremely useful, but it does take a little bit of practice to be able to use it well. And if you haven't used it in a while, it still also takes quite a bit of time. But you can close that off, and by holding down Command, I can click on individual parts, move those in, adjust the handles and stuff like that. But if you're struggling with that, you can use the polygonal lasso tool, make a selection and all that. Now, going back to this, if you are using paths, remember, unlike Illustrator, paths will show up in the separate option here in paths, and if that's not showing there, you can go window paths, and there is the selection there. So even if I select off it, I can always jump back into that, and there it is there, and I can then right click in that and I can rename it, which I recommend if you're going to be using lots of paths. And also, if you hold down Command or Control and click into the image, it will select that area. So now I can jump back into layers, onto my mask, and B for brush, and I actually want to reverse select that, because otherwise I'm going to select the start erasing inside. So I'm going to go select inverse or Shift Control I. That is a huge one to try and remember. Super important, reversing selections that you make. And I'm going to quickly just clean those edges up a little bit. Actually bring Mark Ruffalo's face in a little bit there, and let's start seeing there. It's kind of doing an okay job. Once I've done a good cleanup there, let's go Control D, deselect, and I'm going to continue just gradually bringing this back. Blend, blend, blend. As I get closer in, I'm going to drop my opacity down. So I'm going to go down to, say, 30%. See if I can blend it in some more. As I get even closer, 20%. Just using the numerics. And even if you really want to get finicky, down to 10%, so we can start getting some of the details from Mark Ruffalo's actual chin himself. If I make a mistake, don't fret it. We simply switch back to white and we can rebuild. So I can bring back anything I want from that image. So masks are amazing because they are non-destructive. So that's kind of getting there. Do toggle on and off. Obviously Mark's got a little bit more of a rectangular chin. And if that is the case and you want to play into that, there's a few things we can do. So one of the things I'm going to select on the object again, I'm going to go Control T to transform. I'm going to right click and go to warp, and this will actually bring up a warping option, which, as you can see, will allow me to start pushing this around and doing all sorts of amazing warps and stuff like that. So again, Control T to transform, right click and warp. There's also Distort, which allows you to grab just the corners or the edges, but Distort does bring up this mesh as well. Now, do be aware that you can run into some issues using these transformation things when there is a mask applied. To give you an idea, I'm going to jump into another really special mask. I'm going to go Edit. Now, down where my transformations are, I'm going to go up a little bit and go to Puppet Warp, and this, you see, will actually place a grid or a mesh around our object. And I'm actually looking at it, I'm noticing that now there's actually a little bit that I want to get rid of. So I'm going to just get rid of that. I'm going to go onto my mask again, and I'm just going to quickly run over here with the black brush. I'm just going to select on here with Command, see if there's any other areas that I don't want. And there's quite a few actually. Let's see if I can delete some of those. And I'm actually going to apply this mask. So at a certain point our mask is going to become redundant. This is looking reasonably good for the blending for now. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to right click on the mask and go apply layer mask, and that's going to make the mask disappear. Now we've just got the object as is. Now I'm going to go Control T. I'm actually not going Control T to transform. It's actually got something down here. It's only slightly visible, but it's making the selection box a bit large. So I'm going to go and undo that. I'm going to go M for my marquee tool, just a big rectangular tool, and I'm just going to select a big chunk down here and just delete and see if that cleans it up. And as you can see, that has it sort of, the transformation boxes moved down. I'm going to go to the top and just go M for marquee, select that, and then delete as well. Control D and Control T, and it's brought it down here. So this is pretty good. So now I can right click, and my warp option, you only get 9 boxes with the warp option here. It's going to be a little bit more conducive to where I want to move it, so we can do some pretty cool stuff with that and start trying to get it to fit in a little bit better. So same thing applies. Edit, puppet warp. There's my mesh. I can place some pins in here. Actually, I'm going to delete one just to give you an example. So I've only got 2 pins in here. I can hide the mesh if I want, and I can grab these pins and I can start moving this around. Now because I haven't sort of tied down a pin here, it's moving the other side as well, so you may need to add pins to stop it from moving around, and this way I can start pushing this around and I can really get some nice detail into this. So if I wanted to bring that part of the chin up, I can start moving this around. Maybe we bring this part in a little bit, maybe we bring this part out a little bit. So a lot of control on this. It's actually a really, really powerful tool to know. And we can start defining that jawline a little bit. Once we're happy with that, I'm going to hit OK with that. Could need a bit more cleanup by adding another mask, but I'm going to leave that for now. Now we still have all this fluff or beard parts underneath. I know where this new jaw is. Could probably even drop down a few spaces, but we can sort that out. So to clean this up, I'm just going to turn that jaw off for now. We can rename this jaw, for example. I'm actually going to do a little bit of a repair on the actual image. To do this, I don't really want to destroy this image too much for now. I'm going to create a new layer above, like so. I'm going to go S for stamp. So stamp's going to be a nice solid one as a repair. It's on all layers, or you can also have it set for current and below. So I could even have the jawline on, and it's not going to select anything from there. It's only going to go from this layer that I have on and anything below. But actually, let's try it that way. So I'm going to get myself a decent sized brush, not too big, not too small. Holding down Alt allows me to select an area, and I can start trying to repair that in. Now my opacity is a little bit low, but that's not always a bad thing. Select an area, start pushing it in. Select an area, start pushing it in. And the reason why I do select a lot of areas is because I'm really trying to avoid weird blemishes. So again, it's a little bit like herding in. You can start pushing that in, like so. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually really quite quick, but the details really do count. If you start seeing repetitions, that's where it starts getting a little bit finicky, and with just a little bit of effort you can get something that's probably going to look a lot better, and your client's going to be a lot happier if they don't see sort of repetitions or little weird things that you may have missed. Ultimately you want to leave them sort of going being amazed with your work and just going, not knowing how it was done. Cool. All right. So again, pretty quick. If I turn that jaw off, you can see it looks pretty scruff underneath. I've just sort of herded everything up. We might want to look at doing, a healing tool or something like that as well. But for now, it's kind of getting there. Now we still have some issues with this jaw. The edges aren't so great, so I could jump in with a dropping a new mask on there, and we can try and clean up a little bit more there, blend it in, etc., etc. But